The U.S. envoy to Lebanon confirms Israel's withdrawal from southern Lebanon. France's Macron stresses Syria's diversity and calls for stability, political process, and refugee return. And Canada's Prime Minister steps down as Liberal leader amid declining poll numbers. It's 8 p.m. Cairo local time, and you're now watching Q News, and we begin today's bulletin with the latest developments in Lebanon.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين.
وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
The United States envoy to Lebanon, Amos Hochstein, has arrived in Beirut ahead of a meeting of the committee tasked with monitoring the implementation of the ceasefire, which went into effect on November 27th. Hochstein's visit aims to address key issues, most notably the presidential election and ceasefire matters. This visit follows his meeting with the Saudi Foreign Minister in Riyadh on Sunday, where they discussed the ongoing situation in Lebanon.
Rebuilding the economy, reforming the kind of reforms that will allow.
U.S. envoy to Lebanon, Amos Hochstein, has praised the Lebanese parliament speaker's efforts to secure a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. This came during his press conference in Beirut, where he confirmed Israel's ongoing withdrawal from southern Lebanon, which has allowed the Lebanese army to take control and ensure security in the south. Hochstein emphasized that the Lebanese army should be the sole guarantor of safety, citing Israel's recent withdrawal from Al-Naqoura in southern Lebanon's western sector.
They'll give me press credentials after this.
Lebanese media has reported that the Saudi ambassador to Lebanon, Walid Bukhari, is intensifying his political consultations as part of ongoing efforts to address Lebanon's political crisis. Bukhari's meetings coincide with the visit of U.S. envoy Amos Hochstein, who is expected to hold discussions in Beirut as part of broader international efforts to mediate and resolve pressing issues in the country. Despite Hochstein's remarks, Israeli media has revealed plans for the Israeli occupation forces to stay indefinitely in southern Lebanon, defying a ceasefire agreement stipulating withdrawal. Despite fears of backlash from the Biden administration and potential United Nations complaints, Israel aims to maintain control of key areas near its northern border. Reports suggest the military is determined to solidify its presence in southern Lebanon as the ceasefire deadline approaches. And for further analysis on the current situation in Lebanon, we're joined from Beirut by the Military Affairs and International Relations Expert General Baha Halal. Welcome to Q News. Sir, let me begin by asking you, what is the primary purpose of Hochstein's visit to Beirut? Sir, can you hear me? Broadcast of Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's remarks during the Christmas Mass at the Cathedral of Nativity of Christ in the Egyptian new administrative capital.
وبشوف كل يعني كل ردود الأفعال
I see all the reactions and maybe the concern, and God bless you too, and maybe the concern and the worry that could be justified. Let me just continue. Just let me to make you understand. We wish to say a very simple thing. You should know. You should know. I want to say to you, I'm not talking to just you. I'm talking to the whole Egyptians through you in Egypt and the abroad. We wish for this year to be better than the previous years. And the second point you need to be more clarified about and let you understand. Just please pay attention to what I'm going to say. I just want to say, I think that the worry is justified and legitimate, and the previous years witnessed worries and difficult situations were there for a long time, and God willing will be passed peacefully. We are here in Egypt. Too many things that we do, not many people are aware of. First of which, that we not forgetting that there is a God. And may Allah preserve us all, that the Almighty God some would think or forget along with circumstances and imagine that matters aren't controlled not by us as human beings, but by the creator of the human being. Things are not loosed like that. We are believers as a whole, but we should not to forget. Let me just say this, the first point that should be aware of, that we all know very well that Allah exists and no one can do anything in this world unless by the will of the Almighty God. Just let me just finish the sentence. Please listen. This does not mean, as Egyptians, to take all the means to protect and preserve our homeland, and the first protection, our beloved, our love to each other. The credit of love and size of life among Egyptians, thanks to Almighty God, increases day after day, and this matter should be taken into consideration. And the third point I wish to say that the size of awareness and perceptions for the Egyptians is big. And make them very prepared to deal with any matter they can see inside Egypt or abroad. And the last thing I wish to say, we as the state of Egypt, and as I am responsible for you, you should self be assured that I was always dealing with all matters with the great honor and honesty,
وبأمانة كبيرة وبنزاهة كبيرة.
and with a great transparency.
النقطة دي أنا بقولها لكم
This point, I say to you, just I need to clarify it, as it is a very important point. If those are responsible for you, isn't that good? His hands are touched with the blood of the people. You should feel a fear of your homeland. If his hands is taking the money of the people, you should feel fear of your homeland. None of what I've said existed. Lastly, Egypt is a great country. Egypt is a great country. That's it. Many happy returns. Many happy returns and Merry Christmas to all of you. And God willing, the upcoming days will be better than before. I do not wish to take long, and I know that the proceedings and the prayers take a long time, and each time I remind myself and you that the Honorable Papa has a great presence and respect in my heart. I swear to the Almighty God, may Allah protect him and protect you. Many happy returns.
That was a live broadcast of Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's speech during the Christmas Mass at the Cathedral of Nativity of Christ in the Egyptian new administrative capital. Now moving back to the latest developments in Gaza, 3 Israelis were killed and 9 others injured, including 3 critically, in a shooting near the Kidumim settlement east of Qalqiliyah in the northern occupied West Bank. Israeli media reported that the gunman opened fire from a car targeting a bus and a settler's vehicle before fleeing the scene. Israeli forces have launched a large-scale manhunt, setting up roadblocks and surrounding nearby villages. The attack has highlighted tensions in the occupied territories, prompting heightened security measures across the area. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has pledged to pursue those behind the attack on Qalqiliyah in the West Bank. Netanyahu declared that they will find these killers and bring them to justice, along with anyone who aided them. Netanyahu stressed that no one would be spared from accountability for the attack, which took place earlier in the day. Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich has sparked controversy with remarks suggesting that Palestinian villages such as Al-Funduq, Nablus and Jenin should resemble Jabalia, a densely populated area in Gaza known for military confrontations. Smotrich also urged Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to convene an urgent meeting to outline a security strategy aimed at what he described as eradicating terrorism in the West Bank in a real way. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz has warned that anyone supporting Hamas in Gaza would face severe consequences. Katz confirmed issuing orders for the Israeli military to respond forcibly to any threats. His remarks signal Israel's continued focus on countering perceived dangers in Gaza, with a strong emphasis on military readiness and decisive action. Israeli Minister of Security Itamar Ben-Gvir has warned against efforts to end the Gaza war, citing that it would spark conflict in Israel. Ben-Gvir called for increased freedom of movement for settlers over Palestinians and proposed more roadblocks to ensure security. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that Washington wants to see a ceasefire deal in Gaza concluded and the hostages brought out in the next 2 weeks. During a press conference in South Korea, Blinken explained that a renewed push is underway to reach a ceasefire in the war between Israel and Hamas and to return Israeli detainees before U.S. President-elect Donald Trump takes office on January the 20th.
And what we've seen in the last couple of weeks is a re-intensified engagement.
Moving on to the latest developments in Syria, French President Emmanuel Macron has emphasized the need to respect diversity in Syria. This came during his address at the annual French Ambassadors Conference in Paris, where Macron expressed France's hope that Syria's new administration would bring security and stability. He also emphasized the importance of initiating a political process in Syria and facilitating the return of refugees. Additionally, he called for an end to the fighting in Gaza and the release of detainees. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has announced his decision to step down as leader of the ruling Liberal Party after 9 years in office. Trudeau will remain in his role until the party selects a successor. Facing mounting pressure from party legislators and declining poll numbers that suggest a potential loss in the next election, Trudeau's departure marks a significant shift in Canadian politics as the Liberals prepare for a leadership transition.
Nous traversons vraiment un moment critique dans le monde. After the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process.
Now we move on to a live broadcast for the press conference of Amos Hochstein in Lebanon.
Not to expect that all parties will remain committed to implementing the agreement that they agreed to. Thank you.
South Korea has announced the extension of one international airport's closure until January the 14th. That comes as investigations continue into the Jeju air crash that killed 179 passengers last month. Initially set to reopen on Tuesday, the airport remains closed while a joint team intensifies its probe into the country's deadliest aviation disaster. 2 investigators are expected to travel to the United States to analyze flight data with the National Transportation Safety Board. South Korea's anti-corruption authorities have announced plans to hand over the execution of the arrest warrant for former President Yoon Suk-yeol. Investigators are seeking to extend the arrest warrant, set to expire today, citing the need for further action. In Seoul, protests erupted amid heavy snowfall, with thousands gathering to either support or oppose Yoon's arrest. The protests continued through the night, even as temperatures plummeted below freezing. U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson has stated that a massive winter storm sweeping the country will not stop Congress from convening on Monday to ratify Donald Trump's presidential election formally. Johnson emphasized that the Electoral Count Act mandates the process on January the 6th, regardless of weather conditions. Despite heavy snow and strong winds forecasted across central and eastern states, Johnson urged members to remain in Washington for the session. And that brings us to the end of our news bulletin. Here is what we have been covering. The U.S. envoy to Lebanon confirms Israel's withdrawal from southern Lebanon. France's Macron stresses Syria's diversity, calls for stability, political process, and refugee return. And Canada's Prime Minister steps down as Liberal leader amid declining poll numbers. And this concludes our news bulletin for this hour. Don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at QNewsEG to stay informed. I'm Hala Al-Hamalawi. Thank you very much for watching and stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.